Welcome to our guest expert this evening. All right, so it's so wonderful to have you here. Thank you so much for coming.
Yes, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, no problem. Sure thing. So, just a little bit for our viewers about Ashley J. White. So, Ashley White is the founder of Dawn's Break Coaching LLC and motivational speaker whose personal mission is to help those struggling from heartbreak find a better relationship with love. After recovering from a difficult divorce and depression, she decided to be to others what she needed during her 7-year journey back to embracing love again. She dedicates her work to her faith in God, her mother, and her late therapist. Ashley believes that we all deserve the best of love. When not coaching or speaking, Ashley can be found raising her 3 amazing children, dancing like no one is watching, and planning her next adventure. That's all my favorite part right there. Love that. Love that. So, Ashley J. White, welcome to our live stream. Happy New Year to you. I'm
Thank
still in
you.
Happy New Year mode. I don't know about you. Uh,
I'm still here. I'm still here. I can't believe how fast January is going already. I needed to slow down.
if this is an indication, this is going to be another year that just absolutely speeds by, right?
Way
So
too fast.
we've got to get ourselves together. Total wellness is on the menu this year, and emotional wellness is really just one of those pillars that we promote here at Adelaide Physiotherapy and that I am Dr. Felicia. It's more about just physical health because we want to be healthy, whole, happy.
Mhm.
So, is there anything else that you can tell us about yourself outside of your coaching work before we dig down and delve deeper into that?
Well, beyond what you've already said, I am a mom to 3 amazing kids. I'm a native Houstonian, born and raised in Third Ward. That's the neighborhood of Beyonce, Felicia Rashad, and Debbie Allen. So, rich legacy in my neighborhood. I'm an HBCU grad. I graduated from Tennessee State. I'm proud to be an HBCU grad. It's something that I love and cherish. I'm a mentor. I'm a writer. I'm a speaker. I'm a creative. I love God, music, and sports. And like you said, when I'm not coaching, I'm somewhere dancing, laughing, brunching with my girls, drinking way too many mimosas, and taking a nap because I believe in rest.
Yes. Rest needs to also be on the menu this year. So it's
Exactly.
important to achieve that balance. Rest is important.
Yes.
Definitely a big proponent of that.
Mhm.
So, talk to us now about why did you get into coaching people about healthy love relationships?
Well, what happened was in 2012, I went through an extremely difficult divorce. I am the daughter of a pastor who was born up in a very religious background. So, it's very taboo to have divorce when you're in a Christian space. And so it was not only hard just dealing with that, but just in the position that I was very publicly having to go through something that's very traumatic emotionally. And I went through a big depression. I looked up, and here I am, a mother that's a single mother now to 3 kids, two of them that were in diapers. And I struggled with the shame of it. And it took me a very long time to get through that process. I did about 2 years of therapy, which saved my life, which I'm a very big advocate of going to therapy and seeking out help when you go through anything traumatic, especially divorce, because people say that it's like going through a death, but that is an accurate description of what divorce feels like. It's literally the death of your dreams, it's the death of the life that you thought you would have. And to process all of those emotions and also have to deal with children at the same time was exceptionally hard. And once I got through that process, especially during the COVID period, I sought out a life coach. Shout out to Dr. Sequenta Richardson, who helped me kind of process things even beyond my therapy. And I talked to her about how passionate I was about helping people that went through divorce and my ideas. And she said, "Why aren't you doing it now? It's time." And after that, I decided, okay, it's time for me to do what I promised God that I would do and to help other people to get through divorce, breakups, so that they could find a way to love better and to love healthy. So that's how Dawn's Break Coach got launched. And I've been doing this for over a year now and just helping people to recover from divorce and heartbreak so they can find love that they deserve.
Mm. Wow. That's so, so, so good. A few things stuck out to me in there.
Hmm.
Two kids in diapers. Okay.
Yeah, two kids in diapers.
Yeah. Two kids in diapers. I'm just like, that's a lot of pampers to change for two hands. That's a lot.
Yes,
That's a lot of
yeah.
pampers to change.
Hmm.
Okay. That stood out to me. Then also the fact that, you had a therapist involved, you had a life coach. It's like there was a team, like you had a team to help and really, I'll use this phrase that I borrowed from a colleague, love you back to life.
Yes,
You had a team. It took a village to get
yes.
you back to where you are. And what stood out also from your bio, 7 years. I
Hmm.
think that sometimes people may feel like, it's like you should just get over it.
Hmm.
Like just get over
Hmm.
it, like anything that happens in life that's, really devastating to a person. And it could be something like even the death of a loved one.
Hmm.
And it's like people just like, after like maybe a couple of months, they're like, oh, why don't they just get over it? And but
Yeah.
you can't just in many cases just get over it. it
Hmm.
takes it takes time. It takes time to heal.
Hmm.
So I think that those are all very, very important points to pull out there. So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. I
kudos to
think
you for
that's a big misconception.
Mhm.
Is that the healing process is it's quick, and it's not. And it looks different for everybody. For me, it literally took 7 years before I felt like myself again. And I think we have to be very patient with ourselves and patient with the people that we love when it comes to getting through difficult situations, because healing is hard. We see all these things on Instagram and on social media where we're telling people, you need to heal or you need to get over that, and it's just not that easy. There's so many things to unpack. When I went to therapy, I thought I was good. I mean, I knew I was going through a divorce, and I was there to it. We started out as being in couples therapy. It was therapy together, and at some point, he checked out of the therapy, and I stayed. And my therapist said to me, "I'm not going to change him, but I'm going to change you." And
Mm,
at the time, I was thinking, I don't need no help. I'm good. Like I came. I mean, we could be wrapped up in about 6 weeks, and I would be back to being me, doing me. And the more that we talked, I realized that I excelled in my professional life. I excelled with my friends. But when it came to love, there were some things that I just simply was not prepared for. And
mm,
just because we're confident in how we move doesn't mean that we're at a point to where we love ourselves in the way that we should. And I had to come to grips with the fact that as confident as I was, I did not love myself enough to get out of a bad situation quicker
mm,
than I should have. And that was a hard thing to really look at. And even when we're going through this process, we're breaking down the anatomy of how we've been taught to love. And I
mm,
also learned that I went into my marriage with the mirror and the example of how my parents loved. And even when I got married, I said, "Oh, I want a marriage like my mom and my dad. That's what I want." And we typically will do that. But what we don't know is what happened before we were born. We don't know what our parents went through to get through the healthiness that we saw. And my therapist pointed out to me, "Ashley, you saw a trusting relationship for all of your life, but you have no idea what it took for your parents to get to that trust." And a
mm,
lot of us will go into relationships, we'll go into marriage expecting things to look like what we grew up with when we don't understand all the work that we were not privy to get our parents to those relationships that were good. And for some of us that grew up in single parent homes where we didn't see what it looked like to go through, the ups and downs of a relationship. And sometimes we'll get into relationships with people who don't understand that there are ups and the downs. And when the downs come, they haven't been equipped with the tools to survive the downs. And
Mm,
so those are all the things that you have to unpack before you enter into relationship. When I coach people, the first thing I tell them to do when they decide to get married, when they decide into a long-term relationship, go to therapy together, because there are some things that you probably don't even know that you all are going through, that you're going to bring into the relationship, baggage, experiences that are going to potentially hinder your long-term success, because we've only stopped at a shallow point before we get married. We're, oh, I know what music you like, I know what makes you mad, I know, you like to go to this place, and we like to travel together, but it's so much deeper than that. I
mm,
need to know how you process things. I need to know that if the doctor comes to me today and says, Ashley, you have cancer, am I with someone that is capable to love me through sickness? Am I with someone that's capable to love me through if I get laid off? Or if when my parents died, I was watching an episode of Oprah, and there was a therapist on there, and she said something that stuck out to me for a very long time. And she says, make sure that you marry someone, that you enter into a relationship with someone that when you have to bury your mother or your father, you want them standing in the gap.
mm,
And when you think about that, when you think about, I'm going to put in the ground the two people in this world that are ones that I know love me unconditionally, who do I want standing next to me? And we have to make sure that we're going beyond the shallow things when it comes to picking who we choose to partner with. And
mm.
it goes so much deeper than that. As we get old, the problems get bigger, and the things that we go through get heavier. And you have to make sure that you're with someone that is capable of holding that load.
Mm. Let me catch a couple of these comments. Tanisha D. Stewart says, this is good. She also says, are we going to church or are we going to church? Okay.
That's my girl. That's my Sarah. Hey, Tanisha.
Listen,
For doing
she is hitting it on the head because
it.
she know we got us a PK right here. So
Right,
she got
right.
the ability to take us to church today.
As
Okay.
much as I try not to preach, it comes out.
You can't help what's in you. What's in you has to come out. Whatever it
This is
is, it
true.
has to come
This is
out.
true.
Yep, I'm definitely a firm believer in that. So thank you for those. Thanks for those comments, Tanisha D, and thanks for popping on the R stream. Thanks for all those popping in, popping in. I see all of you. Tanisha said, "Amen."
Amen.
Yes, but so true. We have to go beyond the superficial when we are picking life partners. And that's likely where a lot of people get into problems right there. And you can probably relate to this also. I've had some persons that I've come into contact with, some friends, and sometimes I meet them after the dissolution of a marriage. And it's like, you ask them, did you pray about it first?
Yeah. Yeah.
And did you pray about it first?
Yeah.
We can't leave God out of it, and then we do that so many times. We'll
Yeah.
leave God out of it, and then we come back and we want to. Then we need help, and we go. Then we go, but when we should have really gone first. So go to God, go to get that counseling, and then actually take in this really really great advice that we are being given,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we got some more love being left on the wall there. I am Jam Music says, love you, Ashley. I love the support.
Love
I
you
love it. I love
too.
it. Okay, so who do you primarily help? Okay, with your service, who do you primarily help? Talk to us a little
With
bit about that.
Yeah, with my services, I help women, and I do help men. I do have a few male clients, but I help people over 30, men and women, who just are struggling with the healing process after divorce or a bad relationship. What I do is give them the tools to heal, to recover, to overcome the roadblocks, and just to trust themselves to love again.
Mm, very good, very good. All right. So, what do you find then in working with both men and women? What do
Mhm.
you find are the differences between how men and women handle heartbreak?
I think the biggest myth is that men are not emotional. I think a lot of people will say, "Oh, well, women are so more emotional than men," and that could not be further from the truth. I think the difference is the way we process emotions. Because even being quiet is a state of emotion. And, a lot of times women, because of the way we've been raised, because of the way how society treats men and women differently when we display emotion, when we grow up, we tend to carry that on as adults. When you're a little girl and you start to crying, you get a whole community of people that rush over to see what's wrong with you. What's wrong? Oh, little girl, oh, let me kiss your boo-boo. Let me hug you. Oh, you pretty girl shouldn't be crying. Oh, they're straightening you out. They want to make sure that you're okay. And if you're a little boy and you cry, the first reaction is, what are you crying for? Toughen up, wipe your tears away. Stop crying. You're acting like a little girl. And because women, as we've grown up and society has given us way more space to be able to be vulnerable and to cry and to express those emotions. So we have learned to process our emotions more healthy by society than men have been given the grace and the space to do that. Because as soon as a man cries, we look at them as weak. We tell them, nobody wants to see you cry, toughen up, they're given such negative reactions when they're vulnerable that as they grow up and to be men, they don't want to display that. They don't feel safe doing it because they've been taught that if you cry, you're weak. When in actuality, being vulnerable is a sign of strength. Being able to say, I need help, shows how strong you are to be in that vulnerable state. And because of how we have the difference in the ways that we have raised women versus men, we haven't given men the space to be vulnerable. But they're just as emotional as women. It's the exact same. There's really no difference. It's just a difference in the process. Now, men, because of the way society has said, don't cry, go inside, go somewhere where no one can see you cry. They tend to process their things within, and they tend to process their things in isolation, which is extremely dangerous, which is why we're seeing the increase in suicides, especially in Black men, because we have trained them and taught them as little boys that when you cry, you go and hide. You don't let people see. So because of that, they don't seek out community because they haven't been taught to do that. As women, we've been taught to get on the phone with your girlfriends. When we have a breakup, our girls come over and they're like, come on, we're gonna be all right. Let's go hang out. You don't need him. We're gonna journal. We're gonna manifest you a good man. It's like we're gonna have a whole party, forget them, we good. We're gonna come and circle each other. We're gonna come and surround ourselves with other people in our community that allow us and give us the strength to be able to process. And so we tend to heal faster. With men, and if they haven't been taught to reach out and tap into their communities to seek help, they're not going to do it. And so I'm glad that society seems to be shifting in that aspect and are giving men the space to be more vulnerable, to seek out help, and to be better friends to each other, to their guy friends, to say, hey, I need help. They're getting therapy, they're getting the counseling. And so I think things are better. Things are getting to a point now where they are better. But I would love to see our men have more community within themselves to where they're coming together as brothers to say, hey, man, I got you. If that just means we just sit here and watch the game together and not say anything, I'm here. And I have that support. So I think that's the way that we process differently, but we're just as emotional. It's really about the same. There's no difference there.
Mm. Wow, wow. We never really think about it like that, as you said. And, I do think that for men, it can easily become a mental health issue, like you mentioned. Of course, there's an increase in the suicide, and, men's mental health awareness month just passed by. And I was
Mhm.
happy to see them take some time out and address that.
Mhm.
It's so needed. It's so needed
Mhm.
in society today. And we
Yeah.
do just have some of these misconceptions that we have carried through decades, this
Mhm.
whole thing, like you said, like, women behave like this and men behave like that. And
Mhm.
that's just it.
Yeah,
and anything else is unacceptable. So
right.
I'm happy to see things, things are changing. I think, albeit maybe slowly, but things are changing and
Yeah,
changing for the better.
yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. And when we get to the point of just unpacking the emotional baggage, the advice that I give to everyone, whether it's men or women, it doesn't have a gender specific thing. What the first thing I do to tell the first thing I tell people when they're trying to unpack baggage after relationships, after divorce, and really after any difficult situation, number one, you have to acknowledge the pain. A lot of us have a problem just simply saying, I'm hurt. This put me in a bad place. I'm depressed. And you can't heal anything that you refuse to say is real, that you refuse to acknowledge. So the first thing you have to do when you're unpacking that baggage, you've got to acknowledge the pain. And not only just acknowledge it and say that it exists, you got to speak it. It's something with the power of the tongue, and just letting those words out. I hurt. This set me back. I'm depressed. I'm sad. I'm angry. You need to speak those things out in order for you to begin the process of healing. You got to start somewhere. So the first thing you have to do is you got to acknowledge the pain. The second thing I tell people to do is to process the whys. Start thinking about, why am I here? Why did this happen? Was it something that I could control? Is this something that is now a cycling thing? Have I been here before? Going through the whys of where you are. When I was going through my divorce, I had to ask myself, why did I get here? Why did I make the decisions that I made? And once you start asking those whys, and you start really being honest and open with yourself, you will get to the answers. You will start to feel it. You will start to realize, this is why I'm here. Is this something that I've carried from one relationship to the next? Is this something that I have been taught because of the way that I was raised? Is this something that is a result of bad teaching, of bad advice, of things that I've been told by other people that have brought me here? So it's just processing how you feel. The third thing I tell people to do is to forgive and to release. A part of the process of unloading that baggage is also forgiving yourself. A lot of times we will hold on to bad situations because we can't forgive ourselves. We're saying, oh, I shouldn't have done that. And, we tend to get stuck in, not being able to forgive ourselves and also to forgive the other person. Because some people will do things based upon the way they've operated, the way they've been raised, the way they've been taught to handle things. And it doesn't have anything to do with you. A good book I tell people to read is The Four Agreements. And one of the agreements is knowing that it's really not about you. And sometimes people will do things to hurt us, and it doesn't have anything to do with us. It's more so about them than it is about us. So it's forgiving yourself for maybe not seeing things, but also forgiving the other person for that hurt. And it's taking and releasing that off of you. We will carry that load. You have people that will hold on to things and not forgive somebody for years and years and years. And holding on to that negativity, there's a physical response to it. When you hold on to that, your body also holds on to it as well. That's a stressor. That's anxiety. And carrying that, I tell people all the time, it takes a lot of energy to be angry and mad at somebody. If I'm mad at you, every time I see you, I gotta remember to walk the other way. I gotta remember that I don't like you. Oh, wait a minute, I gotta talk to you in a certain tone because I don't like you. That's a lot of energy. And that's energy that you can shift to be used in a better way for yourself. Just release that. Let it go. All right, you did something that made me mad. I'm going to forgive you and move on about my business. But I'm not going to hold on to that in detriment to myself. And a lot of us will hold on to things, hold on to that baggage in our lives in detriment to our healing. So I tell people to forgive and then release. And the last thing I tell people to do is just to call out the purpose of the pain. Once you've forgiven, once you've released, once you've processed the whys, once you've acknowledged the pain, now you can call out what was the purpose of what you went through, and then to embrace the peace of that.
Mm.
Everything that we go through has a purpose, whether we're ready to fully acknowledge that or not. But once we get to the other side of it, we can see the purpose. What did this come to teach me? And once you answer that, you can let that baggage go. And this process is not easy. Parts of it are going to take longer to move through than others, but you've got to find a way to move through it so you can process and you can heal. It's very important. And then also, I tell people too, healing is a lifelong journey. It's
Mm.
not something that you could say, I'm going to start today and I'm going to be finished in 6 months. It's a lifelong journey. We're always going to be healing from something, and that's okay. But be able to acknowledge it in your life so that you can grow. You
Mm.
have to be uncomfortable to grow. And some things are going to come into your life, and the purpose is simply to grow you to the next thing in your life. So you have to process the baggage, process what's going on, and unleash it so that you can move on. Because if you don't, you're going to stay stagnant, and eventually it's going to cost your emotional and your physical well being.
Wow, wow, wow. So good. I hope that you all caught those 4 points. One, two, three, four. If I hope you had your notepads ready for that, or you're gonna have to watch this replay of the live stream back to catch those 4 points because that was gold, absolute gold. Listen, and I could see numbers 2 and 3 were no joke. Okay. 2 and 3 is where a lot of people get stuck. Two and
Yes.
three
Yes. And
is
it's
a
easy to
process.
do. And I tell people it's natural. It's okay. We're gonna get stuck sometimes. We have to be gracious with ourselves. We have to allow ourselves to move through the process. For some people, for some things that you go through, you may be able to knock that out in a month. But for other things like a divorce, that's a much harder process to move through. If you
Mm,
just had a short-term relationship, you might be able to be okay within a month or two. But I was married for 7 years, so it took me a lot longer to get through that. You have more memories there. You've got other things, and once you've been involved with somebody for so long, your lives intertwine. So you've
mm,
got mutual friendships, and sometimes in that divorce, you gotta figure out, okay, well, who's gonna still be my friend this time? What friendships are gonna side with the ex-husband, and who's gonna side with the ex-wife? So there are a lot of things in that process that you have to mourn. So it's not a simple solution. It's not I'm gonna wake up today and it's gonna all feel good. It just doesn't work that way. And so we have to be gracious with ourselves and give ourselves time to be patient, to move through that process, because it's not easy. And so we have to be purposeful with the way we handle ourselves. And for people, that when you're supporting someone that's going through a divorce, you have to also be gracious and patient with them as well, because they're going to have some days where they don't want to talk about it, or they're struggling with it. And we're like, well, God, you've been divorced for 2 or 3 years, and it's like, well, I still feel it, God dog it. Like, I mean, I remember, just because when you're with somebody for a long time, y'all have a routine. You have things that you do. Y'all have y'all favorite movies. You have your favorite restaurants. And then just the day that you got married, it took me a long time for the day that I got married to not mean anything to me. For me to just be like, oh, the date passed. I didn't even think about it. That took like 5 years for me to feel that way. And there's still today certain things that will just be like a little tinge, like, oh, I remember that. But you have to be patient with yourself and know that that's normal. It's part of the process. uh my friend don't hear prayers, grief doesn't have a timeline. That is correct. You are so right.
mm,
That's my girl. Hey, Karen.
mm,
Yes, got to give yourself grace. Yes,
mm,
we must.
mm,
Grace
mm,
is an
mm,
integral part of the healing process. Grace, community, and support. Got to
mm.
have all.
Grace, community support. That's another good take home message right there. Let's see. Read another comment or two. Rain Thompson. I think this was in response to what I was saying about prayer first before getting
Mhm.
into some of these relationships, right?
Yeah.
She's saying, we run to God when it gets tough only when we should include him in the good times too. Yes, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Remembering God all throughout it, throughout the whole process. But
Yes.
yeah, that was deep right there, Ashley. You always think about, well, who's gonna get the kids, but you never think about who's gonna get the friends, who gets
Right,
to keep the
right. Who's gonna get the
friends,
don't let y'all have pets, who's gonna get the
who
dog,
gets the dog. Oh,
So,
heartbreaking,
yeah,
heartbreaking when
yes.
you think about dividing up assets and things like that. But and who gets the kids? Who gets the dog? Who
Mm-hmm.
gets to keep the friends? Oh
Yeah.
my
Who
goodness.
gets to keep the friend? I mean,
Who gets to
it's
keep
a
the
lot. It's a
friends?
lot. But
It's
we
a
have to be,
lot.
yeah, we got to be patient with ourselves, though, and just
Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm.
work through it and know that it does get better. I'm living proof that it does get better. I can honestly say that I have never been happier. Even though it was a rough 7 years of my life, I'm stronger. I'm better because of it. I've changed the way that I parent. I think I'm a better mom because of it. I think I give my children a lot more space to really be who they are because of what I've gone through. I don't put a lot of pressure on them. I allow them to just be individuals with no expectations because I think I put a lot of expectation on what I wanted to be the perfect marriage, what I wanted to be the perfect kids. And I think once my idea of perfection blew up, I said I got to change direction. And sometimes one of the things that I had to come to grips with too is in my desire for perfection. If I am perfect, then the other person always has to be wrong. If I'm perfect, my way is always right. And what type of pressure does that put on the person that you're with? So you have to let go of that idea of perfection. Nothing is perfect. You have to allow people to be. So many times we will tie love to control when control is not love. Love is freedom. And a hard part of loving somebody is knowing that at any point in time they can walk away. They can say this love no longer supports me. And you have to be able to be okay with that because love is freedom. Love is not control. So it's a lot to process.
Whew, you unpacking a lot tonight, Ashley. You unpacking it, honey. You left a load. You left a load because guess what? It's quite a few sound bites in there. Love is freedom. Love is not control. I hope y'all caught that. I hope y'all caught that. You're dropping the gems tonight. Dropping the gems. All right. So, what would you say? And I believe that was really just one, trying to control the other person in the relationship and seeking perfectionism. Are there any other common pitfalls that you see people fall into when it comes to dating, even after a heartbreak?
Mhm. I think one of the biggest problems I see is not giving yourself enough time between relationships. I think we can sometimes get into this desire to, I don't want to be alone, or sometimes we'll stay in bad relationships because we're afraid to be single. But staying in a toxic relationship, I read the other day, can take 8 to 10 years off of your life. Staying in a bad relationship. So being somewhere that is not good for you can literally take years off of your life. And it's definitely not worth that. So I think just not taking enough time after the divorce, after relationship to really heal. And I think the longer your relationship is, the longer you need to really heal through that process. After I was done with therapy, I took 2 years before I even dated. 2 whole years. I said, Ashley needs to be good with Ashley. I need to love myself. I need time to understand what I need to feel happy in relationship. A lot of us don't really understand what we need. Like we have a few things we understand, but I didn't even realize how much I needed physical connection. I thought, oh, I don't need hugs that much. And then I got into a marriage and realized, you know what, I need to be hugged a lot. Like I need you rubbing on me to feel loved. And sometimes we get in relationship with people that are not capable of giving us that love. And if you need communication, if you need a certain level of connection, you have to make sure that you're with somebody that, even though that may not naturally be the way that they love, that they're willing to give that to you. So that's one thing I see too, is just rushing too fast in between relationships and not taking the time to really assess what do I need in a relationship from someone. And then I think unrealistic expectations. I had a client one time that said, "Oh, when I meet the person, I'm gonna know." And it's like, well, what do you want? Are you looking for music to come and angels to come down and tell you? And it doesn't quite work like that. Sometimes you don't know that's the person until months into dating. So I think we put this expectation of what people should be and how the process should go, when it's more so just really be intentional with knowing what you want to do and how to approach it. Allow people to be and allow love to happen in a natural way.
Mm.
So that's it. And then just moving without intention. I think a lot of people date without a plan. You just kind of get on an app or you go out and just kind of hope it just pops up. And it's like, you got to have a plan. You got to know what you want. You got to set some boundaries. You got to, and you got to vet people. Sometimes we will go out on dates and with people that we've only had maybe 2 discussions with. And it's like, you don't know who these people are. Vet them a little more, talk a little more, have more conversations before you decide to be in an intimate space with someone. Let them take a little bit more time to really get to know them before. My friend Press said, out here freestyling. Exactly, Press, freestyling. Just out here, just doing things all willy-nilly, like the old people say. It's like have a plan. Be
A dating
intentional.
plan. I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
A dating plan. Okay, so we see some questions are starting to come in. Were you done with that thought, or did you have a bit more on that?
I'm done with those. Are about the three common
Mhm.
things I see. Yeah.
Okay, okay. All right. So, for those that have questions, you can at this time go ahead and you can just drop them right in the comments section, and we will have Ashley J address those to the best of her ability in this space. Let's see. So, Love and Me More says, any advice for someone whose spouse has died?
Hmm. That's tough. My advice for someone with a spouse that has died would be to take your time. Take your time. You don't have to move fast. I would definitely suggest going to therapy, going and sitting down with a professional therapist just to kind of talk you through those emotions. But really just to take your time through the process, because I think what you don't want to do is start looking for another version of your spouse in the next person that you love. So you want to make sure that your heart is open enough for the next person to come in whatever version that may be. So I would say definitely, if you haven't already, go through some kind of grief counseling, but give yourself time to mourn that love and to honor that person's place in your life, so that when you feel like you're ready to entertain love again, that you have fully processed and you feel fully in a place where you can allow yourself to love someone completely. Because when we've been married, that person's always going to be there. They're always going to have a certain space in our heart. And so we also have to make sure that the next person that we're with is going to understand that there may be times where you're still going to feel that love. And they have to be patient enough with you to understand and be gracious with you and understand that that's always going to be a part of who you are. Because that when someone leaves you, that love doesn't die, especially when it's a spouse, because you're connected. So I would just say, take your time, go to therapy, any type of grief counseling if you haven't already, but just don't move fast. Don't put a timetable on it, and don't allow anyone else to put a timetable on you. I think a lot of times we'll quick to be like, oh, well, aren't you ready to date? Move at your own pace, and don't allow any external sources to tell you when you should love and how you should love and who you should love. Do that for yourself, and wait until you're ready to start a new chapter for love, and when your heart space is really open to allow someone else to come in and you fully have processed the death of a loved one.
Mm. Excellent response. Excellent and very thoughtful response. Okay, so we have opened it up for Q&A. So for anyone that's on that does have any questions they would like for Ashley to address, feel free to drop them in the comments section at this time. For those that have not already done so, if you don't already, follow me over on all of these social media platforms so that you can get more discussions like this, more information to enrich your life and help you to really and truly strive towards achieving total wellness. Okay, it's a journey. Okay,
It
but
is.
people like myself and Ashley are here to help you with the different pillars and aspects of wellness. So, Ashley's here talking to us about really some emotional wellness. Ashley is the healthy love coach. Okay. So, if you haven't done so, be sure to give us a follow. I'm over on Instagram as at I am Dr. Felicia, same handle over on YouTube. I am Felicia Adderley over on LinkedIn, Adderley Physiotherapy on Facebook, and pretty much I'm on every platform. So follow me on your favorite platform or social media outlet of your choice. I'm everywhere. I'm on Twitter at I am Dr. Felicia. Make sure that you follow me on your favorite social media outlet. And as we're waiting to see if there's any more questions, we're just going to give it another minute or two. Ashley, where can the people find you online for those that need to follow you and even perhaps book your services so that they can get those love lives together? Where can they
Yes.
find you?
I am on Instagram at Ashley J. White. I'm also on TikTok under the same Ashley J. White. And my website is dawnbreakcoaching.com. So if you want to go to the website, you can book with me through all three of those platforms. I have a link on every single platform on Instagram, TikTok, and on my website to where you can book a free session with me. What I do is we have a 30-minute clarity call where we kind of talk through what your needs are when it comes to love and kind of where you are, and we see if we're a good fit. If I feel like I'm capable of helping you, then we get to work after that. So I love love. I believe in love, and I am living in my purpose and doing everything that I can to help people to get over difficulties after divorce, after bad relationships, so they can know that love is out there for us all. And don't believe the things that you hear in social media that you can't have it. It's all about a mindset. You can have whatever you believe you can have. And when you walk in a room and you operate in a spirit of gratitude to love and loving yourself, you're going to attract people to you that are going to give you what you need. But you got to know that you deserve it, and you got to act like you deserve it, and you got to move in that way as well.
Mm. So true. I couldn't have asked for a better conclusion on the live stream there this evening. All right, so we are going to get ready to wrap then. If there are no further questions, anything further that you would like to share with our viewing audience, Ashley, before we wrap?
Just to don't give up on love. I think a lot of people have had so much heartbreak and so many difficult situations that they get to a point to where they don't want to even try this anymore. And I just want people to not give up. There's love out there for us all. And as long as you know that you can have it, and you have that mindset every day that love flows to you with ease, it will come. It's just changing your mind and making a decision every day to show up for you. You know, part of finding love is loving yourself first. And when you love yourself, you're able to set boundaries. You're able to know what you will accept, what you will not accept in your life. I firmly believe that had I loved myself a little bit more, I would have made very different decisions when it comes to love, before I got married. And part of therapy, part of my healing process, my healing journey was learning that if I love myself, I know what I'm going to accept when it comes to love. And the more I love myself, the more that I meet people, they'll know. I'll be able to determine if someone's capable to love me. Because when you love me, when you love yourself, you're not going to accept anything less. When you treat yourself well and somebody tries to treat you bad, you like, no, I don't treat myself like that. So I'm definitely not going to allow you to do it. So part of being successful in the journey to love is learning to love you. And when you love you, the world is open to you completely. So don't believe the hype. We can have love. Just start with yourself and it'll come.
Well, perfect. That was the perfect closing. Okay, although we don't believe in perfectionism, that was the perfect closing. All right, let's see. Karen's JJ says, awesome session. Thanks, Ashley and Dr. Felicia. You're most welcome. Thank you to
Thank
you
you,
and
sis.
to all of you for coming. So thank you, Ashley, for coming on to our first live stream of the year. We appreciate you so much for coming and sharing with our community all that you've learned, and kudos to you for taking your experience and turning it into something that can actually help others, because that, I believe that may have been the gist of point number 4, which is to now take it and take it and do something positive with this experience, right?
Yes.
So
And yeah,
wonderful.
I tell people all the time, you don't have to do this alone. There's help
Mm,
out there. If you're struggling, if you're even trying to date, if you have roadblocks and you're just trying to come to a healthier space and love, I'm here to help. I operate in a no judgment zone. Like I said, I work with both men and women. I'm not someone, my services are inclusive. I help people that want to be loved. All my requirement is that you show up ready to do the work, ready to heal, and I'm ready to guide you there.
mm. Well, thank you so much, Ashley. Please do, for all of you here that do not already do so, give Ashley a follow. Utilize those services as needed, please. Okay, we're
Yeah.
going to be working. We're all on a journey for total wellness, so
Yeah.
we don't want to only look good on the outside and be a mess on the inside. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll also give you all my quick disclaimer, because of course anything that we've said in this broadcast, you can't take it as medical advice, right? But
Mm-hmm.
we're trying to just come here and enrich your lives today, and we hope that we did that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so with that, then I will hope to see you all back here for another live stream. Go ahead and just keep abreast of what we're doing here at Adley Physio. We're going to be bringing you, and I am Dr. Felicia. We're going to be bringing you a lot of new information, new content, new guest experts like Ashley here. And so we hope that you will stick around and be a part of what we're doing, because we're all on this journey together. We're here to help you, okay? We have a village to help you.
Yes.
All right, so take advantage of that village. Okay, you're most welcome for all of those. Let's see, Rain says thank you, and Loving Me More says thank you also. Hey, Lisa Torres, thank you all for coming. You're
Thank you.
welcome, Bahama Vegan. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for coming. So with that, this is my third closing. This is Dr. Felicia signing off for the evening, making the world healthier, one
Yes.
woman at a time. Bye. See you all for another one.